Good afternoon, everyone. From a technology perspective, if you see 2015 in retrospect, what we've tried to do is if you summarize the 5 key trends which we saw in 2015, and the first trend which we'll talk about is consolidation or demerger. 2015 was the year where technology companies tried to get their act together. We saw one of the biggest mergers in history, Dell EMC acquisition, $67 billion, creating a giant behemoth. We had some of the other technology companies, Google trying to separate some of its business line, HP announcing the separation of the two business unit lines. So 2015 in retrospect was a year where technology companies were trying to get the overall structure right. One of the second big trends which we saw in 2015 was the introduction of the voice call feature by many of the over-the-top instant messaging players. For example, WhatsApp launched its voice call, which instantly became a hit with in most markets. We have always been trying to understand or claiming that telco revenues, especially the voice revenues, will be hit with the over-the-top player. But 2015 was a watershed year with many of these instant messaging players like WhatsApp, Line, Viber, launching that and building upon these voice call features, which have eaten into the revenues of the telcos. One of the other big trends we saw, the third big trend I will talk about, is coming off mainstream of wearables or devices. So 2015 we saw the launch of Apple iWatch. Many of the other players, Samsung, Sony, came up with their own version of watch. But beyond watches, we saw many of the other new players like Fitbit, Pebble, etc. launching new kind of devices. So we already are seeing this coming into the mainstream, and beyond consumer, wearables is moving into industrial applications, which is going to be the next big segment for wearables. The fourth big trend which we'll talk about is smart nations. So smart nations or smart cities is no longer just a lip service or a future opportunity. India announced the 100th Smart Cities project. China announced a major smart city roadmap. Here in Singapore, IDEA announced the smart city roadmap. So smart city or smart nations is no longer an opportunity out there in the future. It's a real opportunity with clear roadmaps for many of the governments. So it's up to the ecosystem players, the service providers, the vendors, and the other players to see how they monetize and make use of this opportunity. And the last trend which we saw in 2015 was digital transformation as a real transformation opportunity for many of the industry players. So we're talking about players from healthcare, players from utilities, trying to digitize their operations, not just from internal operation perspective, but using digital transformation to create new revenue streams. So having looked at this in retrospect, what are some of the events that shaped 2015? How do we see 2016 shaping up? What are some of the key predictions we have? So the first key predictions we have for 2016 is telcos will look at digital as a new revenue stream. We are already seeing that happening. The partnership between Axiata and SK Planet, Singtel having its own digital life. So even in APAC, we see many of the operators already looking at digital as a new opportunity. We will see 2016 some of the local operators in markets like Indonesia, Vietnam, even in mature markets like China, in Japan and Korea. We'll see some of these telcos announcing some more clear roadmap around digital services. The second big thing which we'll expect in 2016 is the industrial IoT cloud. Now, IoT is becoming mainstream. Internet of Things is something which is looked at as an opportunity. What we will expect in 2016 is many of the players, for example, SAP, Amazon, Microsoft, all of them have in 2015 announced their industrial IoT platforms. This will become a bit more mainstream in 2016, and this will start to make new applications, new opportunities for the IoT ecosystem. The third trend which we see in 2016 spanning out is APAC becoming a hub for data center. We are seeing new models coming, evolving with cloud. Data center is seen as an opportunity, not just from the traditional data center operators, but new real players, for example, from real estate, from utilities are looking at data center as an opportunity. Enterprise demand is increasing either in terms of server or storage, and this is creating need to have third-party either data center services or cloud services. So this will accentuate, and in APAC itself, we are expecting 2016, where we had 180 million square feet plus, we are expecting this to grow at a CAGR close to 8% over the next 5 years. Companies moving towards service model. In our own research conducted, 70% of the Fortune 500 companies are now looking at servitizing their product. That is, they're trying to move away from a product model and trying to see everything as a service. We think more and more companies will try to move towards the service model where they try to servitize their products. And the last thing we'll see is transformation across industries. The digital transformation will accentuate across the industries. So you'll talk about healthcare, traditional hospitals moving towards connected healthcare, traditional utilities players moving towards smart grids, traditional real estate players moving towards smart buildings. We talked about smart cities, and all these opportunities will become a bit more clearer in terms of opportunities, and this digital transformation will accentuate over the next year. So having seen this, what's happened in 2015, what are some of the trends we see spanning out in 2016 as predictions? How are companies prepared or preparing for that? So we at Frost & Sullivan have been helping the different ICT players, be it telcos, be it vendors, or be it the enterprises themselves across these opportunities. And we can see some of these real opportunities as to how enterprises are transforming themselves or are preparing themselves for these new opportunities. The first way we see is the telcos themselves. They will push the digitization agenda. And digitization is not just, will be looked at as from two perspectives. One will be to make their own operations a bit more smoother, and also using digitization to create new revenue streams. And we are talking about e-commerce, we are talking about payment, we are talking about other forms of digital services where telcos will launch in these markets. The second big thing as to what we are seeing is cloud is enabling different models and is creating new opportunities. So in our own experience, we have worked with, for example, the largest telco in Indonesia trying to move towards or creating a data center outside Indonesia. Many of the new conversations we're having are with players who are beyond the traditional digital data center players, real estate or utility players who want to look at having data center, build data center as an opportunity. And the conversations are also moving towards just building a pure data center. They want to look at what are the new services they should offer, whether they should look at cloud services, if cloud services, what kind of segments they should look at, whom should they be partnering with. So cloud is enabling new business opportunities, and data center will be a big opportunity which the ecosystem players will be exploring more aggressively. And the third thing which we see is new business models, new revenue models emerging. Traditional players looking at new areas to grow as new revenue streams, and we are talking about Internet of Things. We already talked about how the industrial IoT cloud will take off, but beyond IoT we are talking about data analytics, robotics, we're talking about autonomous mobility, not just connected cars, but looking at drones and how service providers and different players will be looking at them as new monetization models. So these are the ways in which we think the industry will be evolving, and some of the ways in which companies will be driving the transformation over the next few years. Thank you.